The Garden of Love. Chapter 1. The garden's secret. Once, in a quiet village nestled between rolling hills and winding rivers, there stood a garden unlike any other. It was called the Garden of Love, a place whispered about in legends and stories passed down through generations. To the villagers, it was a sacred spot, a place of solitude and peace, where lovers went to find solace and understanding. But to the outside world, it was nothing more than an overgrown, secluded patch of land hidden from view and touched by time. The garden was nestled at the edge of the village, surrounded by tall, ancient trees, whose branches intertwined to form a natural canopy. The flowers that bloomed here were vibrant, far brighter than any others found in the village. There were roses of every shade, lilac that glowed in the moonlight, and vines that twined up the trunks of trees like delicate hands reaching for the sky. It was said that the garden was enchanted, created by the gods of love themselves as a haven for those seeking answers in matters of the heart. A young girl named Alara had always been fascinated by the stories surrounding the garden, raised by her grandmother, who spoke often of the place's beauty and magic. Alara grew up believing that one day she would visit it herself. Little did she know her life was about to change forever. One cool autumn evening, when the sky was painted with hues of pink and purple, Alara felt an overwhelming urge to walk toward the garden. It had been a while since she had thought of the legends, but now they seemed to call out to her. With a heart full of wonder and curiosity, she slipped away from her home and walked the winding path that led to the garden's entrance. As she approached the gate, she felt a strange warmth on the breeze, and the air seemed to hum with a soft, magical energy. With a deep breath, Alara pushed open the gate, which creaked as it swung inward. She stepped into the garden, her eyes widening at the sight before her. The colors, the fragrances, and the sense of peace were more than she had ever imagined. It was as though the garden had been waiting for her, as though the very earth was alive with stories of love and longing. In the center of the garden stood a grand stone bench surrounded by blooming flowers and gentle streams of water. Alara made her way toward it, her heart beating faster with each step. She sat down, feeling an overwhelming sense of calm wash over her. "Welcome," a voice said softly, breaking the silence. Alara looked around, startled, but saw no one. The voice seemed to come from the garden itself, as though the plants and the air were speaking to her. Chapter 2. The voice of the garden. As Alara sat on the stone bench, the world around her seemed to shift. The flowers whispered in the breeze, the leaves rustled, and the waters in the streams bubbled in a melodic rhythm. Slowly, Alara began to understand that the garden was not just a place that was alive. It had a consciousness, a deep, ancient knowledge of love, longing, and the human heart. The heart of love is always in search of itself, the voice continued, echoing in the air. Alara single quotes as curiosity grew. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I am the spirit of the Garden of Love," the voice responded, soft and melodic, like the sound of a lullaby. "I have watched over these lands for centuries, guiding those who seek the answers to the questions that dwell within their hearts." Alara's heart raced. "I have many questions," she confessed. "I want to understand love, why it is so complicated, so painful at times, and why is it so hard to find?" The spirit of the garden was silent for a moment, as though contemplating Alara's words. Then it spoke again. its voice filled with wisdom. Love is both the simplest and the most complex thing in the world. It begins as a seed, tiny and fragile, but with time, it grows. It is nurtured by trust, understanding, and connection. But love also requires vulnerability for it. Asks you to open your heart fully to give and receive freely. It is not always easy, for to love is to expose yourself to pain, but it is also to know the joy of true connection. Ela felt a pang of sadness. But what if the love I seek is not meant for me? What if I never find it? The Spirit's voice softened the garden. Does not promise that love will always be returned in the way you hope. It only offers a place to heal, to understand, and to grow. Love is not just about another person. It is about discovering yourself, embracing your own worth, and opening yourself to the possibility of connection. Ela took in the words, letting them settle in her heart. She realized that the garden wasn't simply a place for lovers to meet. It was a sanctuary for anyone who longed to understand the complexities of love and relationships. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the garden, Elara closed her eyes, feeling a sense of peace she had never known before. She knew that her journey was just beginning and that the garden of love held many more lessons yet to be learned. Chapter 3. The Lost Lover. Over the following weeks, Elara returned to the garden of love often. Each time she visited, she felt the presence of the garden more deeply, as though it had become a part of her very soul. She learned to listen to the whispers of the flowers, to feel the pulse of the earth beneath her feet, and to understand the quiet wisdom in the wind. One day, as she sat near the stone bench, lost in thought, a figure appeared before her. A young man, no older than Elara, with dark hair and eyes that held a depth of sadness. He stood by the entrance of the garden, watching her with an expression of longing. Elara's heart skipped a beat. Who are you? She asked, her voice soft but curious. The young man stepped forward slowly. My name is Rowan, he said. I have come here searching for answers. I have lost someone I love dearly, and I do not know how to heal my heart. Elara's heart ached at the sadness in his voice. The garden has a way of helping those who seek it, she said gently. What is it that you are searching for? Rowan's gaze dropped to the ground. His voice barely a whisper. I lost her. I loved her with all my heart, but she left me, and now I don't know how to move on. Elara felt a deep empathy for him. She had never experienced such a loss, but she could understand the pain of unrequited love the garden teaches. That love is not something to be possessed, she said softly. It is something that flows like a river. It comes and goes, but it always leaves behind something of value. Rowan looked up at her. His eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to let go, he confessed. I still feel her presence in my heart, and it hurts. The spirit of the garden, sensing the young man's sorrow, spoke through the air. Love cannot be forced to remain, nor can it be held captive to heal. You must learn to release what is no longer yours to hold. The pain of loss is real, but it is through letting go that you will find the peace you seek. Rowan nodded slowly, taking in the words. But how do I let go? He asked, his voice shaking. Elara turned to the spirit for guidance. How do we let go when love is so deeply entrenched in our hearts? The garden responded with a soft rustling of leaves by remembering that love is not bound by time or space. it is an energy that exists in all things. By embracing the love you shared and honoring its place in your life, you will find peace. It is not about forgetting it, it is about accepting that love in its many forms will always be with you. Rowan took a deep breath, his shoulders relaxing slightly. He had heard the words, but it would take time for him to truly understand them. The garden had given him a glimpse of peace, but the healing process would be long. Chapter 4. The heart's healing. As the seasons passed, Rowan continued to visit the Garden of Love. Alara watched him from afar, seeing the gradual transformation in him. Each visit seemed to bring him a little closer to understanding the lessons the garden had to offer. Slowly, he learned to accept the loss he had suffered, not as a burden, but as a part of his journey. He came to understand that love, in all its forms, was not something to be clung to desperately, but something to be cherished, even in its absence. One afternoon, as Alara sat by the streams, she noticed Rowan standing at the edge of the garden, his face serene, his heart finally at peace. He had come to the garden with pain, but now he stood in quiet acceptance, a smile playing on his lips. Alara stood and approached him, her heart filled with gratitude for the lessons the garden had taught them both. As they stood together looking out at the blooming flowers and the gentle flow of the stream, Rowan turned to her and said softly, "Thank you. The garden has helped me find my way again." Alare smiled. "The garden did not heal you, you healed yourself. The garden merely showed you the way." And with that, they both understood the greatest truth of all, that love, like their garden, was not something to be grasped or held forever, but something to be nurtured, experienced, and ultimately let go. The Garden of Love had worked its magic once more.